Right, everybody, thank you. Can I welcome everyone to this, the Justice's third meeting in 2014. Can I ask everyone to switch off mobile phones and other electronic devices completely, as the interview of the broadcasting system, even when switched to silent. No apologies have been received. Item 1, the committee is invited to agree to consider a draft Stage 1 report on the Criminal Justice Scotland Bill at item 4 today and at future meetings in private. Are we agreed? Agreed. Item 2, EU legislative proposal. Its consideration of whether an EU legislative proposal meets the principle of subsidiarity. This is a proposal for a directive of the European Parliament and of the Council on the strengthening of certain aspects of the presumption of innocence and of the right to be present at trial in criminal proceedings. I remind members that the subsidiarity principle is that, unless the EU has exclusive competence, action should be taken at the lowest level of governance consistent with subject matter and objective. We have three options available to us. One is to agree that the proposal does comply with the principle. In this case, no further action would be required. The second is to agree that the proposal does not comply. This decision would trigger a motion in Parliament. Or, thirdly, to write to the relevant Westminster committees highlighting concerns that proposals may breach the principle. This is our only opportunity to consider and raise any concerns we have with the Westminster committees, who are meeting tomorrow. As usual, plenty of time to consider European stuff. My goodness, it's getting shorter by the minute. Can I ask you, Roderick, our EU reporter, to give your views on whether the proposal meets the subsidiarity principle, and I'll invite views from other members. Thanks.
Thank you, Convener. I find this actually quite difficult to reach a full view on. I note what the Scottish Government have said, and obviously their view seems to be that there's no evidence, that there is evidence that it breaches the principle of subsidiarity, whereas I think the UK Government's position, as indicated in a private paper to us from the solicitor, is the UK Government accepts that if there is a lack of mutual trust between judicial authorities of different EU member states, then the EU conclusions are valid that EU-wide action would be necessary. My problem is it's difficult to reach a full view on this when we haven't seen any evidence to the contrary. But it might be helpful if Joanne was able to just outline the procedural problems we have.
The main procedural problem is that the Westminster committees are meeting tomorrow, so any way that you would want to input into that a decision would have to be made today.
I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I get longer to decide what blend of butter to get than I do this. I mean, Elaine.
Yeah. I agree with Roddy. It's very difficult to find any actually come to a conclusion on that. Just in terms of what the Scottish Government was saying, and I accept that probably isn't any evidence of people having any concern about members of other EU states who are on trial in Scotland. I just wondered whether there is a reverse position, however, and I don't know the answer to this, but where a Scottish citizen is, can they be assured of their full human rights in a trial in another EU state? I mean, have we any evidence that there have been concerns around that in the past?
Good point. Yes. Anybody else? Margaret?
Yeah, it seems to me maybe if we could email, given the shortness of time, some of our concerns about this, which is more or less outlined in the paper. Option C, it may breach the principle of subsidiarity, put our concerns to the UK Government and then take it from there. Would that be a possibility?
Yeah, we'll just do it as a letter, as an attachment. Yeah. Sorry, Roderick. Yes.
Does anybody else want to talk, sir?
No, go ahead and chair. I'm quite happy.
No. Sorry.
Just do the Margaret.
It's early in the morning. I think some kind of city on the fence is realistically all we can do, because we don't have a full picture. Otherwise, we just say we accept what the Scottish Government says without kind of scrutiny.
Can we say something about the fact that this committee really has no opportunity to give any consideration of any depth whatsoever to this matter? Would you, John?
Yes, I certainly, Convener, would support that position. This committee spent a number of months dealing with legislation, scrutinised it, and despite different people's views on it, was still accused of acting in haste. And here we're expected to act in this short time frame. I think it's totally unacceptable. It's consistent with it's consistent with what we had to deal with last week as well.
And I think the fact that we're experienced as a committee in justice issues in Scotland, it's not appropriate that this matter comes to us so late. And I'm not from the UK. We need time, so that all we can do is rub our hands in misery and say we're not able to think about this in any depth. So I think that's a very important point to make about it. But also, Roddy?
There's a point of emphasis possibly. We might want to emphasise we, as a committee, haven't seen any evidence that the principle of subsidiarity has not been breached.
Indeed, that's very important. Is that all right? Everybody happy with that? Thank you very much. Item 3, subordinate legislation, is consideration of one negative instrument, the Act of Sederunt, fees of Sheriff Officers 2013, SSI 2013-345. This instrument increases the fees payable to Sheriff Officers by 2.15% from 27th January 2014. Do members have any comments on that statutory instrument? Are you alive out there? Just no comments. You've got
This
comments.
is just a question, actually. Is this the fees which they levy, for example, if somebody's in arrears on the council tax and it goes to the sheriff officers, is this the additional fee that they levy on that individual?
We can find out, but I would imagine fees payable to sheriff officers will be across, and I'm speculating, across the spectrum, serving warrants, serving citations and so on. And there will be a rate for it. Right. We are now going into private session, so we'll just wait for the public gallery to be cleared, and I'll give you a 2-minute break while that happens.